Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you, step by step. First thing first, Hermes only use the leathers from the 3 top-level suppliers. One is called Nuti from Italy. The second is Weinheim from Germany, and the third is HALTS from France.
Luxury bags carefully handcrafted in China. The viral TikToks from Chinese factory workers, the internet is now in a frenzy over claims that some of the most iconic designer bags are actually born in the East.
What if I told you that the $40,000 luxury bag you've seen paraded on red carpets and flaunted by billionaires wasn't actually crafted in a quaint French atelier, but was pieced together in a Chinese factory for less than 5% of the retail price? Sounds impossible, right? Well, buckle up, because the fantasy we've all bought into, the handcrafted Hermes dream, with its buttery leather and artisan-stamped seal of approval, may just be a $38,000 illusion. And it's not just a theory.
One piece of Togo leather, the same leather as this one, will cost 450 USD. And one piece of the leather is only enough to make one Birkin, okay? And next, the thread. And of course, for Hermes Birkin, the thread is also the best top level. It's called fil à chinois from France.
Viral TikToks, whistleblower footage, and insider revelations are pulling back the velvet curtain on the luxury fashion industry. And what's underneath is a tangled mess of deception, marketing, and globalization. The Hermes Birkin bag has long stood as the crown jewel of high-end status symbols. It's not just a purse, it's the ultimate flex, the kind of item celebrities use to show they've made it.
This is actually the Rolls Royce in thread. For each bag, the cost is 25 USD. And then the hardware. See, this hardware is called 316 hardware. It's also known as the ocean stainless steel because it can withstand the erosion of seawater. It's the best stainless steel. For one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD.
Limited supply, endless waitlists, and a price tag that could rival a luxury car. It's supposed to represent elegance, rarity, and French sophistication. But what if all of that is just a story? A narrative spun to justify a price that has nothing to do with where or how the bag is actually made. This bombshell isn't just shaking Hermes, it's sending shockwaves through the entire fashion world. Because if the queen of luxury can be dethroned, who's next? But the backlash was just beginning.
Edge oil. This edge oil is imported from Italy. It's called heat seal edge oil. For each bag, it will cost 50 USD. The interior lining, it used lambskin imported from France. For each bag, the cost will be 100 USD. And
for decades, Hermes has carefully built a myth around the Birkin. A myth rooted in craftsmanship, exclusivity, and European elegance. The story goes like this. Each Birkin is meticulously handcrafted by a single artisan in a French workshop, using the finest leathers sourced from prestigious tanneries in Italy, France, and Germany. The process is said to take up to 48 hours of focused labor, with every stitch placed by hand using traditional saddle stitching techniques passed down for generations.
Finish one bag, the human resource cost will be 600 USD. The package, now this is not that expensive, it's 10 USD. So now to sum those up, the total cost will be 1,400 USD for one Birkin out of factory. But why Hermes will charge you 38,000 USD for one bag? That's because more than 90% of the price is paid for its logo.
That image, soft sunlight pouring into a quiet atelier in Paris, an old-world craftsman delicately shaping a future heirloom. It's not just branding, it's the entire justification for the $40,000 price tag. But let's pause for a second. If Hermes is really using such a limited workforce of elite artisans, producing every bag by hand, how is it that demand keeps soaring and waitlists still span years? If you've ever tried to buy a Birkin, you know it's not as simple as walking into a boutique with cash in hand. Customers are often required to spend tens of thousands on other Hermes items just to be considered for a chance to buy the bag. It's scarcity theater, a luxury illusion. And the payoff? You get to feel like you've earned entry into the most elite club in fashion. But what if that exclusivity was just smoke and mirrors? Because while the brochures whisper stories of French hands and leather-scented workshops, what happened next would rattle the entire industry. Then came the video.
But why Hermes will charge you 38,000 USD for one bag? That's because more than 90% of the price is paid for its logo. But if you do not care about the logo, you just want the same quality, same material, you can just buy from us. Because for our bags, we use exactly the same material.
The one that flipped the luxury world upside down. A calm, matter-of-fact Chinese factory worker standing in front of what looked like a row of Birkin bags, casually breaking down every single detail. The leather, the stitching, the edge oil, the zippers, the hardware. Not speculation, specifics. He listed suppliers from Italy, Germany, and France. He named the thread Filo Chinois, a top-tier French-made material. He knew the cost of each component. And then he said the words that sent shockwaves through fashion circles. We've been the OEM factory for luxury brands around the world for over 30 years, including Hermes. The internet went wild. Millions watched as the man calmly dismantled the myth of European exclusivity. According to him, the same exact materials Hermes claims are used in their French workshops were being shipped directly to China, where skilled workers assembled the bags, not in rustic ateliers, but in sleek industrial facilities. He even broke down the math. $450 for leather, $25 for thread, $150 for hardware, $100 for lining, and around $600 for labor. Total cost? Roughly $1,400 out the factory door. That's not cheap by any means. The materials are real, and the quality is high, but it's a far cry from the $38,000 retail price. And the key detail? The place of origin. Because if these bags are made in China, and only labeled Made in France after the fact, and this wasn't just about Hermes anymore, let's be clear. Nobody's saying Hermes is using low-grade knockoff materials. The leather? It's the real deal, sourced from elite tanneries in France, Germany, and Italy. The thread? Filo Chinois, known for its strength and used by top luxury brands. The edge paint? Imported from Italy. Even the lining is lambskin from France. And the zipper? Rarity, a Swiss brand synonymous with precision. These are not shortcuts. These are the exact materials Hermes proudly advertises. And the whistleblower confirmed it all. But here's the twist that shattered the illusion. The assembly. The part where a luxury item truly becomes a luxury item. Because while Hermes paints a picture of each Birkin being lovingly stitched by a lone artisan in Paris, this video claimed the actual construction is happening thousands of miles away in Chinese factories. Not imitation factories. Real OEM facilities with years of experience assembling for major labels. And the video didn't just make claims. It showed receipts, stitching processes, breakdowns of every material, cost comparisons, and even packaging. A fully finished, factory-ready Birkin built in China and indistinguishable from what you'd see behind glass in a Paris boutique. So yes, the ingredients are premium, but that final step, the one that makes the bag luxury, might not be as French as we were led to believe. And for a product that sells itself on authenticity, that's a dangerous crack in the foundation. But this crack was about to become a full-blown rupture. As the Hermes footage spread like wildfire, something even bigger started to unravel. It wasn't just about one brand. Suddenly, whispers turned into headlines. Gucci, Prada, Coach, Louis Vuitton, all allegedly linked to the same practice. Sourcing materials globally, then assembling in Chinese factories, before slapping on those iconic Made in Italy or Made in France tags. The idea that high fashion's most revered names might be outsourcing their manufacturing to cut costs while preserving the illusion of European craftsmanship, that wasn't just controversial, it was explosive. One report went even further, estimating that over 80% of today's so-called luxury goods are actually produced in China, not in back-alley sweatshops, but in high-tech facilities capable of producing top-quality products. And most shockingly, many of these factories openly admitted they'd been OEM suppliers for major labels for years. They weren't hiding, they were proud of their work. But the brands? Dead silent. The reason? Prestige. The very concept of luxury hinges on heritage, exclusivity, and geography. Consumers don't just buy a Gucci belt. They buy a story about Florentine ateliers and artisanal leatherwork. A story they're now realizing might be carefully curated fiction. If a bag is made in China using the same materials, the same methods, and the same quality, but costs $1,000 instead of $40,000, then what exactly are customers paying for? And that's when the internet exploded. Once the story hit TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit, it wasn't just fashion bloggers or luxury insiders talking. It was everyone. People who had scrimped and saved for years to get their forever bag suddenly felt duped. Influencers who once proudly showcased their Birkins started posting videos titled, "I spent $30,000 on a lie," racking up millions of views. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Some users called it a long overdue reality check. Others were furious, accusing Hermes and other brands of manipulating trust for profit. A few even defended the practice, claiming that skilled labor is still skilled labor, no matter the country. But the damage was done. The mystique was cracked wide open. Collectors panicked. Some rushed to dump their Birkins on resale sites before values plummeted, while others doubled down, clutching their bags like investments under threat. Resale platforms found themselves in a tight spot. If no one could verify where a bag was truly made, how could they authenticate it? What were they even authenticating? Materials, craftsmanship, or just a logo? And then came the memes. Made in China jokes flooded Instagram. One viral post showed a Birkin next to a knockoff with the caption, "Spot the $37,000 difference." Another joked, "Turns out luxury smells like globalization." The fallout wasn't just financial, it was cultural. People weren't just mad about the money, they felt betrayed. The whole idea of luxury, the exclusivity, the status, the craftsmanship, was suddenly up for debate. And as the firestorm grew, Hermes said nothing. As the backlash reached a boiling point, people waited for Hermes to speak, a statement, a denial, even a vague PR post. But nothing came. No press release, no media appearance, not even a single Instagram story. While the internet screamed, Hermes went silent, and that silence spoke volumes. In an era where brands are expected to respond instantly to controversy, the quiet from Hermes felt less like strategy and more like guilt, like maybe they were hoping the storm would pass on its own. Spoiler, it didn't. Meanwhile, some of their competitors scrambled to get ahead of the fallout. Louis Vuitton, for instance, quickly updated sections of their website with transparent details about their production facilities. Others pushed back publicly, asserting that their goods were only made in Europe and the US. Some brands even leaned into localization, offering factory tours or artisan interviews to reinforce their authenticity. But Hermes? Radio silence? That silence only fueled more speculation. Was it arrogance? Damage control? Or were they just scrambling behind the scenes to figure out how much of their operation might be exposed next? Some insiders whispered that Hermes was weighing whether to halt production of certain Birkin models altogether, to reassess their supply chain. If the whistleblowers' claims about OEM partnerships were true, Hermes wouldn't just be facing a PR disaster. They'd be staring down legal threats, consumer fraud accusations, and possible regulatory violations in countries with strict labeling laws. But the plot was about to thicken, and the timing was suspicious. Just as the Hermes controversy reached its peak, another layer began to unfold. And this one had less to do with handbags and more to do with geopolitics. Shortly before the viral videos started gaining serious traction, President Trump had announced a massive policy shift, a 90-day pause on select global tariffs, while simultaneously hitting Chinese imports with an eye-watering 145% tax hike. The timing? Too perfect for some to ignore. Almost overnight, TikTok was flooded with expose-style content targeting luxury brands, especially those with ties to European prestige and American markets. That led to a new wave of speculation. Could the Chinese government be quietly pushing these whistleblower videos through the algorithm as a form of digital retaliation, boosting factory workers' clips that expose Western luxury brands? It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Experts have long acknowledged that TikTok's algorithm can be subtly influenced to promote specific narratives. And given the Chinese government's tense trade relations with the West, especially after the tariff bombshell, some online sleuths were convinced the viral factory videos weren't just accidental, they were strategic. To be clear, there's no confirmed proof of government involvement. But what is undeniable is the scale and timing of the digital uproar. Viral videos featuring calm, well-spoken Chinese factory workers emerged from multiple accounts, all dropping behind-the-scenes footage and price breakdowns at exactly the moment luxury brands were trying to protect their reputations in key Western markets. But politics aside, the bigger question was echoing louder than ever. By this point, it wasn't just about Hermes, or even about China. The real conversation had shifted to something much deeper. Something existential. What even is luxury in 2025? Is it defined by where a product is made? Or how it's made? Is it the quality of the craftsmanship? Or the power of the brand name stamped on the front? For years, luxury has sold itself as a story of heritage, prestige, and exclusivity. But with the mask slipping, people started to realize maybe they weren't paying for a better product. They were paying for a better story. Because if the same exact materials are being used in Chinese factories, the same thread, leather, zippers, and oil, and the same care is going into assembly, then what justifies a $40,000 price tag? One man in the viral video said it best. More than 90% of what you're paying for is the logo. That's not a bag, that's a symbol, a statement. And maybe that's the real product Hermes is selling. Not leather and stitching, but identity. Some buyers didn't care. They said as long as the bag looks good and feels high quality, the origin doesn't matter. But others felt betrayed. They didn't sign up for a globalized assembly line. They wanted something authentic. And with so many brands caught in the same storm, Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, trust in the entire luxury industry began to erode. Slowly, then suddenly. And now, luxury brands are being forced to confront the question they've long avoided. Is the product enough to justify the price without the myth? And with Hermes still silent, the final reckoning was just ahead. Now, Hermes stands at a crossroads. And so does the entire luxury industry. Their silence isn't just suspicious, it's dangerous. In today's world, silence reads like guilt. While customers demand answers, Hermes continues business as usual. No denials, no clarifications, no transparency. But the internet isn't waiting around. Hashtags are trending. Resellers are sweating. Buyers are demanding refunds. Lawsuits could be next. And in a market built entirely on perception, trust isn't just part of the brand. It is the brand. Once that's broken, no amount of leather polish or marketing spin can fix it. Even more alarming, some believe Hermes may start quietly discontinuing certain Birkin models just to distance themselves from the controversy. If that happens, those who dropped tens of thousands or joined waitlists years ago might find themselves holding a bag with a question mark stamped on it instead of a logo. Meanwhile, authenticity platforms are left in limbo. If a bag is built in China with European materials, then labeled "Made in France," what exactly are they authenticating? The leather, the label, the lie? This isn't just backlash, it's a reckoning. Because in 2025, luxury is no longer just about product, it's about proof. Customers don't want fairy tales, they want receipts. And the more Hermes dodges, the louder that demand becomes. Will they come clean? Or will they double down on the illusion? Either way, the question lingers in every comment section, in every TikTok stitch, in every disappointed post from someone who once proudly held a Birkin. What did I really buy? A bag or a belief?